Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Paper Trail podcast. Today, I have Chalea Grant with Mountain West Ranches, who is a land investment company out on the West Coast and also a sponsor at the Paper Trail Conference. How are you today?
I'm doing really good. Super excited to, talk with you and tell you a little bit about what we do. So yeah, I'm excited. Thank you for having me.
So, I'm the type of person who just likes to roll up our sleeves and dive right into it. So why don't you tell us a little bit about Mountain West Ranches, what you do, and how you got involved in this avenue of business?
Yeah, so I've been working, it's a family-owned business. That's biggest piece probably that we like to tell people. And it's just a small business, but I've been working for the company since I was 15 years old. Company is basically like a part of my DNA because it's been around since 1990, the year before I was born. So I've been
Okay.
hearing my dad, he's the owner of the company. I've been hearing him talk about this since I was born. So
Mhm.
very, very passionate about our company and what we do. The way it started, it was my grandpa. He went out to the tax sale, bought some lots for super cheap. He went in and, made sure there was a road to get into the lot, graded out a nice little pad, to fit an RV, and just started selling lots that way. So that's how we started in 1990. And then a few years later, demand got so crazy that we saw a need for seller financing because obviously banks don't
Yep.
really finance rural land.
Mhm.
So we started, seller financing, and then obviously from there we needed a little bit of money to, grow our business. We needed some operating capital. So my dad was like, "Hey, well, why don't we start selling a few of these loans?" So we put some ads in the local newspaper, and that's where we found our first group of investors that have been with us for 20 plus years now. We are so incredibly blessed to have really amazing, just good people that invest with us. They're just all a pleasure to work with. Like I mentioned previously, it's just really good, mutually beneficial relationships. So yeah, I've been doing this for almost 15 years now, working with our investors, helping them to pick out, the notes that they want to purchase. And yeah, we have just to dive into our whole program, we have a really great loan servicing team that's in-house. They do an excellent job. There's 5 people in there. They work full time, taking really good care of our loans. And yeah, we do everything in-house. That's our another big thing about us is that everything's in-house. Our
Yep.
road crew is in-house. The only thing we don't have in-house is a title company, but we actually do close some of these loans in-house if they don't want title insurance. So
So it's interesting that you talk about in-house, which you've mentioned a few times, and I don't think people truly understand the benefits sometimes of doing certain things in-house. And you mentioned you have 5 people on the servicing team in-house and some of the other things you do. And for us, we're a company that we also raise money and we buy a lot of non-performing loans,
yeah,
and we have asset management and our investor relations in-house.
yeah.
And a lot of people are like, oh, that's just extra overhead. But
Oh,
the differentiator as a business of being able to A, control it, but also if somebody has a question, which always happens,
yep,
and they pick up the phone and call,
yep.
if you call a third party servicer, which we use, and it's you have
Sure.
good ones and some not, sometimes it takes a little bit, but if it's somebody who's in-house, you always seem to get an answer much quicker.
Sure. Yeah. And that's very, very important to our investors, I mean, when they came on with us 15, 20 years ago, a lot of them have been scammed. They've
Yep.
been scammed because, I mean, Utah, where we are, is the number one scam capital in the nation. So a lot of them had been scammed. So we took a lot of time with them, just really, just taking our time with them and no pressure type of thing. And I think the reason why it worked is because, like I said, we're a family-owned business, and like you said, we take care of them. We don't, I mean, some of our investors will use escrow specialists, but in fact, they've found that we do such a better job that they don't, I mean, none of our investors even take their loans over
Yep.
there anymore because it's just, yeah, when you have everything in-house, you're just really able to control the quality of everything. And when you care about your company the way that we do, and you care about your investors the way that we do, like that's just, I think that's probably the biggest reason why we're successful is because we take good care of our investors and we take really good care of our borrowers too. That's, I will say I've been listening to your podcast, and that's one of the things that I feel like we have in common is we're just everybody that you've interviewed is just they're all just really down to earth people, right? Like no egos, like we're just, we're just people just doing our job every day. Because I feel
Yeah.
like in this world, you will speak with some people that do have a bit of an ego, everybody's different. But I've realized I've just noticed that the people that, that are coming to the conference, they're people like us. We're just down to earth people, very personable, just want to take care of you, no pressure type of thing. So yeah.
Yeah, it's I try to get people who do what they say they're gonna do.
Mm. Yeah,
And there's so many people out there that just are using social media, you know, and trying to get an influence on there. And it was interesting. I was watching the documentary about that unfortunate where, the young couple basically where I think he like, you know, ended up killing her and drove back to Florida and so forth, where they're trying to be influencers. And there was a quote on there that hit me though that somebody said is the people who are either the loudest or happiest on social media are typically those that have the most skeletons in the closet.
that is
And
true.
and it's like in real estate, it's kind of almost like so true from what
Yeah.
I see is, and again, I'm sitting here as a person who, yeah, I have a podcast and so forth. I don't consider myself any type of influencer in any way, shape, or form, but it's like I try and tell stories, but there's so many people out there just trying to take advantage of people and don't actually even do what they say they're going to do, and they
Exactly.
pretend they do. I want people who actually deliver on what they do, and that's why it's great getting to connect with you in that sense. I want to rewind a little bit because you mentioned something, and for our audience, because land investing, people sometimes think is easy. Oh, it's a piece of land and so forth. But you
Mhm.
mentioned a lot of people get scammed, especially in Utah. What are some of the ways people can get scammed in this type of investing?
With notes, I mean, I don't, to be honest, I don't, that's, when I first spoke with you, I was very adamant on, I don't give advice. That's not what
Yep.
I'm in the business of. I don't give
Mhm,
advice. So I don't,
mhm,
I couldn't really, to be honest with you, I can't really speak on what kind of scams are
mhm.
out there.
Yep.
Um, I think for us, the biggest thing is I will say that we get that a lot. The people will say, "Oh, you're too good to be true," right? Like they
Mhm.
think we're a scam.
Yep. Mhm,
So with us, it's just all about documentation. Everything is
mhm,
disclosed,
mhm,
and I tell people I'll
mhm,
send you whatever you need to see so that
mhm,
you don't,
mhm,
so that you feel
mhm,
comfortable, so that
mhm.
we're real
Yep.
people. I mean, a lot
Mhm.
of people will even have them come out to our office to meet us in person
Okay. Mhm,
because, it's just so much better to just see in person that, oh, these are real people. They're really
mhm,
doing what they say they're doing.
mhm.
Because yeah, I honestly don't know what kind of scams there's a lot of different types of scams these days. I mean,
Oh,
all the
there.
different kind of scams that are out there, it's truly wild. And some of our people are older,
Mhm,
they're retired,
mhm.
so I feel like that's a group of people that are being taken advantage of. So
So.
with us, it's just like you said, do what you say you're going to do. And that's why I'm successful at what I do is because when I say I'm going to do something for my investor, I do it and I do it in a
Yep.
timely manner. I don't,
Mhm,
because if they're wondering, we don't
mhm.
ever want our investors wondering. We don't want
Yep.
them wondering, hey,
Mhm,
what's going on with this payment that I haven't received? I mean,
mhm,
I don't even want them wondering for 1 hour. It's an
mhm,
immediate reply, an immediate get on the phone with you.
mhm,
So yeah, that's kind of what we do to, make our
mhm,
investors feel comfortable and just
mhm,
let them know, hey, I know it might seem like it's too good to be true, but we're real
mhm,
people. We're not a scam, and
mhm.
we just take our time with people as
Yep.
long as they
Well,
need. So yeah.
one thing I noticed that you're very detailed on your website is in the descriptions of your property. You talk about like water rights or the zoning and, is it ready for like cabins? Does it have access? Is it ready for enjoyment or not ready for enjoyment? Where I have seen people, and I've seen this in Texas, where people at tax sales would go out and buy, basically land that just is landlocked,
Mm,
underwater, like can't
sure.
do anything with it.
Yeah,
That's
like
30
literally.
miles from any utility, and you can't do anything for it. They'll buy it at tax sale and then jack up the price because they'll offer 0% seller financing and basically tell people, oh, here's a big, beautiful lot and buildable when it really isn't. So that is one thing I have seen people do, and some people get a really bad reputation on. And one thing I noticed, you are really descriptive on your website, not only from a aspect of what you put in there, but you also put everything in English and Spanish as well. So it's, bilingual, so everyone can understand.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I mean, like I said, we've been doing this since 1990. So a lot of this stuff we've learned through trial and error, right?
Yep.
But that's yeah, that's definitely something we've learned through trial and error. It's just it's you how are I mean, I don't know how people expect to be successful long term if they're not being upfront and honest with people, right? Like
Yep.
it's just that doesn't make any sense to me. I mean, we want to be around forever. We're actually expanding to new locations. So I mean, if we want to do that, we have to disclose everything. We have to be upfront with people. We have to take
Yep.
good care of them and treat them like they matter, not like they're just, a dollar sign coming into our bank account.
Mhm.
So
So
yeah.
you mentioned you're looking to expand, you know, new locations, different states. Can you talk about that, or is it still kind of under wraps?
It's still under wraps, but we're able to talk about it. I mean, it's nothing like set in stone. We're working on it. The first place we want to expand to is southern Utah and northern Arizona, just probably because it's closest and that will be
Yep.
the easiest way for us to kind of, we call it a well-oiled machine, is what
Mhm.
we currently have going on. I mean, sure, there's flaws here and there. Nothing's ever perfect and we're always working to improve those flaws. But yeah, we have a really well-oiled machine. So we're just really excited to be able to take that operation, those systems and procedures and try it somewhere else and see if it's successful. So
Okay.
yeah, I'm excited about
Now,
that.
yeah, walk me through the experience of, if somebody was an investor with you, kind of what's it look like for their process? Because with everything in-house, I'm assuming it must be pretty streamlined.
Yeah, it's pretty easy. I mean, the first thing you do is just get with me and I'm the one that has the list of notes that are available. Our notes, the rates range anywhere from 8 to 13%. And then our discounts go up to 10%. Our discounts are just based on our need to sell notes based on, what position our business is in. Sometimes we're
Mhm.
buying a huge piece of property. That's a big thing we do is buy huge lots and subdivide them and create
Okay.
subdivisions. So when we're doing that, sometimes we need to sell a couple more notes, to cover those costs type of thing. So yeah, they get with me, they pick out some notes that they want to buy. We close through the title company so that they do get title insurance and a lender's policy.
Yep.
That's huge just
Important. Yep.
because it's, I mean, you want to make sure the title is clear. It's just due diligence.
Mhm.
And then a big thing that we do that makes us different, our quote unquote purple cow, if you want to call it that, is
I've never
our
heard that. Your purple cow. Wow, hold on. I gotta write that one down.
I
Yep.
learned that in marketing school. That's
Okay.
one of my favorite things. Just your thing that
Yep.
makes you stand out,
Yep.
the thing that makes you different than everybody else. Because
Mhm.
obviously there's
Yep.
people selling notes,
Mhm.
even notes on rural land all over the nation. So
Mhm.
but we offer a recourse guarantee agreement with our loans to our investors. So that document comes in with the title company's documents, and that just says if the loan defaults, we're going to replace it with a similar one from our portfolio because we always have about 200 in our portfolio. So that's a big thing just because it guarantees your income stream, basically. You don't have
Mhm.
to. you don't have to deal with anything. And it goes through the title company when you swap out the loan, when you replace it, it goes through the title company. So it's all official. It's all and yeah, we even have an online system for them to view everything. So once it's closed and recorded through the title company, they can log in and see all their notes and the status of it. And it's just nice because they're not ever wondering. You know, like I said, you don't want to ever have an investor wondering what's going on with their money. So it's just an extra piece for them to have some peace of mind and see what's going on. So that's kind of the process. It's super easy. And then from there, we service the loans and we have a really good team. I keep in close contact with all of them. So I'll know our agreement and the recourse says that we swap it out at 90 days. So I kind of keep my eye on the ones that are getting close to 90 days. And once it gets to that point, I work with the investor to find them a replacement loan. And yeah, it's a pretty seamless, easy process. That's why I like to say, if you're just looking for like something easy and you don't want to have to do a lot of work, I mean, it's perfect. Our investors that we currently work with, they just stack paper. They just buy more
Yep.
and buy more and
Yeah.
buy more.
Just
So,
yep.
yep.
And like you mentioned, you know, some of the differentiators I view is one is you're buying land, but you also can buy large scale, which can subdivide it, which is a huge advantage because I know there's people out there that don't even know that their land can be subdivided or families passed down and you can buy it and then figure out based on having done this for 35 plus years, you've done a lot of work in the counties you worked in, so you know
Oh yeah.
everybody who's in those offices and you
Oh
know
yeah. We're
them,
related
their
to
kids,
a
and
lot of
yeah,
them.
yeah, exactly.
They babysat my dad.
Yeah, so you know, for those who are not in real estate, and I come from a
Yeah.
real estate development background as well and construction background,
Mhm.
you know, people may not want to admit this, but having a relationship of knowing somebody in the office that you've worked with compared to being somebody from out of town or out of state.
Exactly. Yep.
If I went to go into Utah and buy a piece of property and buy it the same day as MW Ranches and do a subdivision, I could basically bet and be pretty confident that you would have it through their system in half the time easily. And it's not because they're playing favorites. It's because they know you, that you know their system, you know what they look for, what they don't look for. There's so many advantages to
Exactly.
working with somebody in that
Yeah.
sense. So,
Yeah, yeah. Same thing with a title company. I tell people just use our title company because they literally are like 2 blocks down from the county building. So it's always just a little bit more cost effective and faster to use them because they're just right
yep,
there. They do it all the time. They know what they're doing. Whereas when we go to a different title company, they're kind of like, what that you just have to tell them everything. You have to spend more time with them and then it's usually going to cost you more money because they have to do more work. So yeah,
yeah. So we had somebody
that's worth a
recently,
lot.
we had someone recently who adamant they wanted to use their own title company. And
Yeah.
we're like, if you use ours, it'll be much smoother. Nope, I'm using my own. I don't trust yours. And we were supposed to close this loan on like a Monday.
Hmm.
And literally, we didn't get, and come Wednesday comes around prior, and like, this deal's not closing on Monday because we have no title commitment or nothing from title back yet, and we can't finish underwriting the loan.
Yeah.
And like Friday at like 5:30 p.m., get the title commitment. They're like, hey, want to confirm we can still close Monday? And I'm like, no. I'm like, it's impossible. I'm like, we told you we're going to need a few days. And I'm like,
Right.
this is why. And it took their title company about 3 weeks
Oh
to,
my,
do everything. I'm like, we know what we're doing. We would have had this done in a week and just would have been over with. But, you're either thinking that you're saving money and so forth. I'm like, you're really not. And
yeah.
actually, their title company was more expensive than the one we use. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
yep.
Yep. Like you said, it goes back to trust. Some people just have a really hard time trusting people. So I feel like you have to respect that as much as you can and work with that as much as you possibly can. But I feel like, yeah, it ends up being their loss in the end because they didn't
Yep.
trust you and just do what you knew was going to be faster and a little bit cheaper. But At the end of the day, when you're working with an investor, it's like you have to walk a fine line of, taking good care of them and making them feel like I said, like you're not a scam. And because yeah, trust is a huge piece.
Yes.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Trust and goes back to what, we were talking about earlier, just, being a person of your word, being in the business
Yeah.
for 35 years, building investor trust. And as you mentioned, a lot of those repeat investors, we've been around for in this, 3+ years with our current fund, and we have a very high reinvestment rate because, we just, we tell people, what's going on. We try and keep them informed,
Yeah.
and, we try and be as transparent as possible on things. And,
Transparency is huge.
try and be upfront with people and what's going on. And I think that goes a really long way. If people have
Yeah.
questions, they can reach out and talk to us. We don't, not respond to them. So I
Yeah,
think
there's
that's important.
there's a lot of that in this world. There's a lot of, you can't get through to somebody. There's a lot of, there's like we were saying, there's a lot of scams. There's a lot of people who say they're going to do something and then they don't do it. So when you are that person that does what you say you're going to do and you're that person that you're real, you're not a scam, like you said, it goes a long way because there's not, unfortunately, a lot of that in this world right
Yeah,
now. So,
no, it is. And the reality too is, there are deals that go bad,
yeah.
and this reality is if you're in real estate and your family business of 35 years doing this, there's deals that probably didn't go as well as you thought.
Oh yeah.
And that's the
That's just
reality
part of
of it.
our operation.
I remember I was at a conference and this, they had like little groups around an area where different sponsors got the talk and so forth. And they basically went from like you were in a group that went from one to the other. There's one guy talking and he's like, yeah, we're a $5 billion fund that is, basically does private lending. And we have never had to foreclose on, never had like to foreclose on a loan or something. And I'm just like, there is, and they've been around for, I don't know, 10 plus whatever years. I'm like, that is impossible.
Yeah,
I'm
that's
like,
possible.
unless you sold it for a loss, but there is no chance
Yeah,
that, you've done thousands of loans and have
right.
never, I'm like, it's, pretty much statistically impossible
Yeah. I,
um,
yeah,
to
for
have that happen. And, the person was touting it and stuff. And, I see people going, ooh, and I'm like, sitting there thinking like, okay, I wish I had my bullshit meter because I could pull out because the thing would be going off the charts.
That's the other problem in today's world is a lot of people don't have a bullshit meter. They don't, they see a shiny thing and they're so impressed by it, but you have to really be able to see through
Oh,
the shine because everything that glitters is not gold. So,
oh,
yeah,
so there was somebody sent me an article yesterday about an investor in Southern California was running basically a mortgage note fund that got charged with wire fraud and basically 62 million, allegedly $62 million disappeared out of like nine, whatever. And, the person was offering like 15% plus annual returns to investors. There was another one that recently was in the news because they're offering 40% returns to their investors. And we had one of our investors reach out and say, ask this question on a webinar. Well,
yeah,
I can invest in this company and get 10% per quarter. You're at like 10% per year. Why would I invest with you? And my comment was, I don't know any company on the planet that has sustained a 40% annualized return to its investors. If it did, they'd be owned by Blackstone, and Blackstone would be their only investor. Um, and also, I have no idea what that risk profile is, but it must be humongous. And
right.
turns out, it was basically a Ponzi scheme.
Yeah,
Um,
that's
and,
usually what it turns out to be.
yeah, and basically a lot of these other quote unquote note funds that you see that are offering 15, 18, 20% returns, every 3 months now I see, whether it's that or self-storage or anything, it pops up that it's like, oh, this person basically, used the money for their own house or this. And, you
Yeah,
know, they lived a great life, but yeah, it's that shiny object is,
yeah,
there's when everyone is in like you said, you're like 8 to 13%.
yeah.
when everyone's in that, that range of things, it's like, okay, that makes sense. But when you see people at
Right.
like 16, 18, 20%, it's like
What's going on? What are you doing?
yes, the math is not mathing.
The math is not mathing. That's
You know,
exactly right. Yeah.
when you look at it, it's like, you have overhead, you have like, where's that? How, yeah, so
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's
And
really
that's
interesting.
why, that's why I think our investors love our program. And it's, they're all more conservative people, right? Like they're not looking to get a 50% return in 3 years, because I do talk to
Yeah.
people like that. Like they're looking
Oh
for
yeah.
crazy returns in a short amount of time. And I'm like, I'm not going to waste your time. That's just not what we have. So
Yeah.
good luck to you finding that. But that's not what we have. We have a really
Yep.
solid program. It works. It's proven to work. These returns are proven to work. It is what it is. If you want to take that risk on the 50% return in 3 years, then go ahead. But like you said, it's usually a scam, unfortunately. So
Yeah. And like you said, been around long enough where you've got the track record.
exactly.
And when people, and it's a very different mindset. People that invest in this type of product, they're looking for the income play. They're not looking for the 50%. They just want something that, is diversified and adds to that portfolio. And
That's
if
it.
you can get that, 8, 10, 12, 13% from one person,
Yep.
and it's consistent, it's like, okay, I will continue to feed them. And because they're trusted, now they may diversify and try one or the other and stuff, but from the most part, they're not going to leave.
Yeah.
They typically will grow, but most will also diversify and whatnot. But the moment you get an investor and you treat them well, and if you can hit the returns you say, typically they will not leave.
Yes, that's exactly right. In fact, they refer their family members, their brothers, their sisters, their kids. I mean, that's a
Yep,
lot of our investors. Their whole family invests with us because they
yep,
just see such a good return from it, and it's such a solid operation that yeah, they want
yep.
everyone to get in on it. So yeah,
So as we wrap up this episode, last two questions I wanted to ask is, with your investors, is there typically like a minimum investment amount that they need to have?
a good
And,
question. So, with what we do, that's what I was going to say. It's interesting with what we do because we completely avoid the Securities Exchange Commission because, you're just buying a
I
note
know. Yep,
outright. You don't even sell partial notes right now. You have to
yep,
buy the full
the full
note
note.
outright. So our lowest loan right now is around $45,000. Our highest loan right now is about $230,000. With that being said, you can obviously buy a package of them.
Yep,
I usually have about 10 available at all times. Our average loan balance is about 75,000. That's our average right now.
okay,
And then, yeah, when you buy a package, we'll obviously increase that discount for buying a
yep,
package of notes instead
yep.
of just
And the loans, amortize, interest only, balloon, how they
no balloon
typically
payments.
work.
No balloon payments are just, yeah,
Okay,
they're just
amortize. Yep,
conventional loans. Yeah. Yep.
cool. And if people were interested, want more information about what you do, I know they can go to mwranches.com. And should they, reach out to you, or is there an email or way
Yeah,
otherwise
it's
to reach out?
actually mwranches.com/land dash
Okay.
note, because MW
Okay.
Ranches will just take you to our land
Yep.
business, but that's always really
Okay.
good to see too. I send our investors there too.
Yep.
My email address is just my first name, Chalea at mwranches.com. So that's the best way. But if you go to that website, there's even a button on there and it'll like just call my phone directly from there. Same thing with email. It'll send an email directly from there. So super easy. Yeah. And I'm on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for coming on today. It's been a pleasure, and I look forward to seeing you very shortly.
Yep. We'll see you next week. Thanks so
Yep.
much, Chris.
Thank you. Take
Appreciate
care.
it.
Enjoy
Have
the
a
rest
good
of your
day.
day.
You
Take
too.
care.
Yeah.
Bye.